Hello and welcome back on this lovely Easter weekend on a Good Friday with Unscripted with Dane and Chris. And so last time we spoke about starting. The topic was starting. And I think this time the topic, Dane, what's the topic?
So, do we have one topic?
No, we never have one topic yet.
Okay, so we basically been talking about the future in all aspects, in terms of the future of the podcast, a future in our careers, society, how we thought the future would be, So we're just going to be talking about, and I think maybe a bit of process as well, seeing that we spoke about the past, we can talk a bit about the process as well, and it's going to be a good conversation. I'm excited to hear what we have to say and to hear what other topics they are, because we go off. We go off. So I mean, it's I think what you said earlier on was you said how we pictured. I think I want to start. Maybe let's start with how we pictured the future would be. We have this image in our mind of this is how my life is going to turn out. And then, while in my experience, at least, it's not the case at all, So maybe let's talk about that. How did you picture yourself, maybe in your young teens?
Yeah.
Where do you think you would be?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
So for the people on the podcast side who don't see the video, Dan and I are passing the mic back and forth to each other, like we're about to drop the sickest rap album here. But anyway, so the question of how did I see the future when I was younger, it's always the interesting thing. So I always knew I was going to be a scientist. I thought I was going to be a scientist. And then, I studied it. And what I realized is what you study, right? You're very unlikely to actually go and do exactly that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I did my master's in genetics, right? And then I ended up working in occupational health, medical research, surgery now. And now I'm actually doing more on the business side of things, right? So I'm not actually even doing the science myself anymore. Oh, a nonprofit. That's what most of my time goes.
Yes.
So it's interesting on even when you think you're going to do something, even when you literally take the steps that people tell you, this is what you take to go do that thing.
Yeah.
You don't end up there, right? And for yourself, how did you see the future and how did it end up?
Yeah. I think in terms of career-wise, if we're talking about career, and I'll break it up as well. So I've always, because my interest was always in cars, so machinery and mechanics, things like that, I always thought that is what I'm going to do, And in my, I think I was, how old was I? I was about 17, 18. And then I just had this, out of nowhere, I had this realization that I actually want to do something in media. I want to talk. I want to present. I want a whole total different ballgame. But when I studied something completely different. So it was just a matter of figuring things out, with time, feeling. I think to me it was more about feeling what is right for me. I can still enjoy the mechanics or whatever. That can still be a hobby or whatever. But just feeling what you actually want to give to the world. I think that's what made the change or the difference, And I always pictured life black and white, I said, okay, and after I'm studying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a house. I'm going to start a family. Very boring plan for myself. But I mean, life in itself taught me that it's not like that. There's so many other in-betweens, So, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to say on that, so exactly that thing of, I took almost the exact opposite route when it comes to life in general, because for me, for the longest time, I was like, this whole thing with starting a family and getting a house and the I mean, we're South African. We're not American with the white picket fence dog. Like it's not quite irrelevant, but like that was I always thought that's not really for me, right? And I was like, no, I wanna go on adventures. I want to take a motorcycle and disappear off to Namibia for a week and to go to Japan and like I want to see the world and live and like a family and that type of thing. Seems like the type of thing that would get in the way of that. And then, right, then I got in a relationship with who at the time was the right person, and my entire worldview shifted. I never saw myself as someone who could even be a dad. I didn't even think about wanting to be or wanting kids because I thought I'm just not the type that would be a good dad. And in this relationship, I saw a side of myself that I realized I can be a very good partner. I can be a very good husband, and I can be a very good father. And now, where I am in my life now, okay. So on the topic, that's the future that I molded. I saw for myself. All of a sudden, my view changed, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can. Maybe that is my future. This is how I see the next 30 years, where we're gonna live, when we're gonna get married, when we're gonna have kids. And then life happened, and now, literally less than a month ago, that relationship, after years, actually ended as well. And now I'm in a place where I, once again, find myself figuring out what the future is going to hold, and once again, sort of reconnecting with that side of me that was like, maybe I'll do podcasts. Maybe I'll, maybe that's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
There was, as you were speaking, I had the question, right? Why have you never thought that you would be that father or great partner? Where did that come from? I just want to on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean the big part of Unscripted is that we speak openly and honestly. So I think my own family situation, like my parents were divorced, and like the role models that I got in terms of relations growing up was, I would, let me say, I didn't feel like it provided me with a guidebook, with a rule book on how to be that, right? I never saw the example of what a good relationship looked like necessarily.
Yes.
Right. And so I already went in with the perception of like, okay, I'm blind, which is actually a general feeling I had in life as well. It's like sometimes, I don't know if you ever get this feeling, but sometimes I always got this feeling of like everyone else has a user manual, I'm sure, for life. I'm writing it as I go. But of course that's not the case. Everyone probably feels like they're trying to figure it out. But
definitely,
yeah. So I just had that perception of, I don't know what a good, and I love my dad, right? And but I don't know what a good father who's always present looks like, and I don't know what a good relationship looks like, or I didn't, right?
Yeah, of course.
Until I experienced, until I experienced it myself, and I was like, I'm not just capable of this, I'm good at this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just doubting myself. And yourself, did you always know that you would be able to do it and that you wanted to do it?
Yeah, I think it was, for me, I've always wanted to do it. For that, it wasn't even something I thought about. I just, to me, it was like, that is just a way of life, and I'm glad I experienced life the way I experienced it, because like I said, I viewed everything in black and white. I didn't think about other things, I just thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to study, I'm going to get a family, and this is my life, And like later in my teens, I realized there's so much more. And with my relationship experience, that I was married as well. And after that, it was like, things can change, or things can look this way and that way. And there's so much more than just this, than just building a family or whatever the case may be. So I think it was, then I started thinking, because I was so, like, I don't want to say upset. I was grateful that it ended the way it ended, but it got me thinking about a lot as well, and it's a matter of, it's not just about the family, but there's so much more. And what makes me as a person, and what can I give to the world, or what makes me feel at ease or peaceful, or you can feel when you're doing the right thing. So it was more about that for me. So I never had that, like when you grew up, we were like, nah, I'm done with this or whatever. Even though my parents were also divorced and that, it was a total opposite actually. But I don't know, maybe I was just narrow-minded at the time. I think, I think environment that you grew up in can also influence that. So potentially that. But I think I just go through life now, how is this going to make me feel? How is this going to benefit me? How is it going to benefit the next person with what I do? And I think I base my decisions off on that, because it's not just about me. There's so many other people that get impacted by the decisions that you make. I remember my mother still told me that when I was like busy with the divorce, she was convincing me like, no, don't do it, blah, blah. And she's like, it's not just you that's impacted. It's everyone. It's Remy as well, my son. It's parents feel the hurt as well. And it's a decision doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone else. So I think that's just how I go, on things.
Well, let me ask you. So you mentioned Remy, now your son. So do you think that had a big influence on how you, like your worldview all of a sudden? Because I hear people say this all the time when they have kids, is all of a sudden the entire worldview changes. And if they had a narrow sort of self-centric view before that, all of a sudden everything becomes about, there's someone else. There are other people. And so I sometimes I work a little bit with forensic scientists and forensic profilers and stuff, and so they always say that when, like, before they have children, when they do like crime scene analysis and stuff, they're able to shut it off and like disconnect from it. But when they have kids, and so sometimes with this type of thing, and with paramedics, I work a lot with them as well. And so sometimes, especially after you have kids, you become incapable of not thinking and shutting it out and not thinking about other people like that, right? So you, when you had your kids, did your worldview change, or?
I don't think it changed. I think it was always like that. For me, I think what happened to me, like even before Remy was like born, when he was, I thought it took me back to my childhood, and it took me back to how or what I did wrong, and if I had another chance, I would change these things. And I remember, because like I write poetry as well. I wrote this thing, and I just read it now the other day, and I wrote it like 5 years ago. Remy's 5 this year. So I wrote it 5 years ago, and I was still so surprised, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually true. And I wrote it myself, but I still had that wow moment when I read it again. And it was just a matter of the principles, teaching him about the principles put in place in the beginning, and things will go, things are not going to be perfect, but it's going to get you through life, and I think that is what changed about me. It took me back. It made me think about what I would do differently. And also for myself, I could realize that, what, I need to influence this human, with what I do, mostly, not just what I say. So I think you become more aware and more self-conscious also about yourself, because you obviously want what's best, and I want him to be better than what I am, and I've got all these exciting teachings that I've experienced, even though we might not take it. Because I know I had that moment with my mother also, where I said, I'm going to teach Remy this and that and whatever. And then she laughed and she says, don't you think I taught you that? And you still went to go do your own thing. I was like, it makes sense, But I mean, I think that is how things change for me. But I've always seen the world, it's not just about me. I actually put myself first more now than what I did before. That is something I had to learn because I was always putting myself last, which is always not a good thing.
Yeah.
So that is how things change for me. Do you think if you had to have kids in the future, do you think you would change that way? What do you think would change about you or your perspective?
Well, it's a great question. The thing is, despite being the type of person that likes going on adventures and that type of thing, I always found myself to be quite responsible, actually. Like like if a party were to happen, I would most likely be the designated driver type thing, right? Right. So, and even in adventures, like if you go on road trips, especially long ones, chaos happens, but it's like you solve those problems as they come along, and so in a way, I don't actually think my worldview would change much. I'm the same as you, where for the longest time, I just neglected myself. Not neglected necessarily, but in priority of things, like I always put the needs of other people before my own. And I think that's something that I still need to work on. But, and I don't think, and it's funny because you mentioned sometimes when people have kids, they calm down a little bit. But I remember, like, I know people who have had kids and you go either way. So some people, they used to be the typical sort of like bouncing on tables type of partying people, and then they have kids and they stop all of that completely. Yes. And then I also know people who have done that, got kids and still do that. And I remember when I was a kid myself, as kids, be like, oh, these guys have the coolest parents ever. So I don't think you need to change who you are for anyone, whether it's a partner or kids. Like, as long as, obviously, you need to consider the massive responsibility, but right. But I don't think I think if your core values and worldview needed to change to accommodate that, then I don't know if that's the right way to go. I don't know. Yeah,
you should be fine.
You should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I think also you figure it out as you go along as well, because at the same time, like I saw this video in a week where it said that this is the first time I'm living life. This is the first time I'm living life. And as well as for everyone else.
Yeah.
For your parents as well. It's the first time they're living life, It's the first time they have kids and they're also just figuring it out, And we expect them to also like know everything or whatever, but it's their first time as well. Like just as clueless as you are, besides obviously with the experience or the life experience and so forth. But I mean, it's, I don't think we can, I think you figured it out, man. You go according to your principles and your values, and you figure it out as time goes along, I think, and with the next one, you'll be more experienced and you'll know better. You'll know what to look out for and things like that. But yeah, as time, I think that wisdom comes with time as well. If you're willing to, learn and grow with whatever is happening in your life, I think, you figure it out like you figure everything else out, Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you. So the more you learn, the more you experience, the more you become capable of predicting the future, right? I would say. But what do you think it's worth trying to predict the future, or is it better to just sort of prepare but not try and predict? Because as we know, life, it seems like the one consistent thing is that life doesn't work out how you plan, right? Yeah. So what do you? Yeah.
I think, it's a good question. I think prepare is good. I don't think we should try to predict it, but we should try to prepare. If I'm starting something, I'll make this example. So with the Uber business thing, right? So the car needed to go for the service, right? and it needed like tires as well and wheel alignment. So I was just doing it like a quick budget with everything. And I was like, okay, I can do, because some of our investments comes from the profit of the money as well, right? So I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, we can do this, and everything. Okay, then the money's gonna be done. And then I said, you know what? Because life is the way it is, let me not squeeze everything so tight. Let me leave in just in case something comes up again. That was preparing. I didn't predict what was going to happen. That is me preparing. And then the car went for a service yesterday, and there was a couple of other problems that needed attention like immediately. So like the bearings and things like that was kicking out the alignment. And then I was like, it's a good thing I didn't do the tires and the alignment and things like that, because the bearings was now more important, So I prepared in case something does happen. At least I'm not, bombarded with this financial strain now or anything like that. So I left money in case for something else, So I think preparing with experience, I know that whatever you start, whatever you do, there's going to be something that you didn't prepare for. But take that time, add extra time just in case, or keep extra money just in case. I think that is how I'd look at it, instead of predicting. I didn't know there was something wrong with the bearings, but I potentially knew, okay, money needed to go somewhere, so that's how I look at it.
That's actually so clever, because and that's such a, like, and I think it might be connected to my ADHD, but I get anxious about the future, because I always stress about the future, and I get depressed about the past because I overanalyze and think. But I think in terms of the future, that's such a, I'm trying to phrase it in a way, but there's a way to phrase that where, you don't predict, you don't catastrophize, you don't think something's going to go wrong with this car. But you're like, but instead of putting all of my money on racehorse number 5, I'm gonna put a little bit of a side thing, just in case. Right. And if it doesn't go bad, then I had it. Great. And it doesn't, I don't lose anything.
Exactly.
Right. So that's wise. And that's wise. And what I find when it comes to predicting things, and especially when things do go wrong. Right. What we often find, or what I often find, is in retrospect, the signs are always there, right?
Okay.
Right. So afterwards, right, you look back on a thing and you're like, I should have predicted this, because actually they did this there and there and there and there and there. So like the traces, they go back from the start.
Exactly.
It's the same if you start a relationship, right? People sort of throw around the term red flag all the time. Right. And then, but even then, like, even though the red flags are almost universal, you, like, when a relationship ends, you hear people say, there was this red flag here. But so what, you telling me you knew? So nothing. So I think we, in a way, we're simultaneously terrible at predicting things, and also we see it clear as day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's interesting, eh? It's interesting. I actually had a question while you were talking, and I just think I'm gonna forget the question. I wanted to ask about, because you say you make yourself depressed, like thinking about the past because you overanalyze things, right? So I just wanna touch on how you deal with that, right? That was the one question I had, and also I think when it comes to like a relationship, right? Like when you see those red flags, I do feel like it's slightly different, because you so in love and whatever, you don't, I think that's what they say, love is blind, because you don't look at those things, everything is just so great and you're feeling great and you just the best, and I think that is why we don't look at those things for relationships, and also what I wanted to say is, you don't also, if I say, look, I'm going to start something, and I say, you know what, give it extra time just for that mistake. I know it's a smart move, but also at the same time, you don't want to, or this is how I think at least, I don't want to almost like be not negative about it, but also say, you know what, problems come. It's okay if problems come because I'm prepared for it kind of mentality. I don't want to adopt that kind of mentality as well with it, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I just want to hear your how do you deal with things like that? Because I'm also like I used to be. I'm much better compared to what I used to be. But in terms of like overthinking, thinking about the future, and just like you sit down and you just make yourself scared of what if this doesn't work, or what if this, and what if, and like it's a terrible thing to go through, I just want to find out, like, how do you like deal with that? Because I've dealt with the same thing.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I don't think there's a solution or an immediate quick fix to it, right? But I do think you get, as you experience, you get better at almost allocating time specifically to, like, okay, I'll make time to think about the future, to plan, and I'll make time to process the past. And if I am able to, through whatever means, whether it's mindfulness or meditation or exercise or keeping busy or whatever works for you, or combination of them all, like, to try at least to be present, right? And know that this anxious thought about the future is not helpful to me right now. I acknowledge it. I know that I can't just snap my fingers and make it go away, but I can also say, okay, I acknowledge it. I take it. I hear it, but it's not useful to me right now. Let me try and do what I'm actually doing right now, right? And that's easier said than that. No, there's like I'm like, if I think about it visually, like if the thought it like comes up to me, it's like a bouncy ball, like a ping pong ball. I hit that thing away, and then it's like, okay, it's going, oh, it's back, okay, but it's gone, oh, it's back again. So it's easier said than done, but I think with experience as well, I think you do get better at saying, or being able to say, this emotion, this thought, it's not useful to me right now. I will give it attention. I really will, right? Right, but not now. Yeah. So that helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree, and I 100%, 200% agree with it. It's not as easy, it is easier said than done, because that is so hard. Like, that is something I also dealt with recently, just trying to be in the present, because your mind is all over the place, and I heard you mention it, meditation. I was gonna talk about that. For me, that helped so much, because you're so busy and you're so anxious about the future, and what if all these thoughts are running through your mind. I just bring myself to that sense of calmness and say, you know what, potentially this could actually work out. It doesn't have to be what if it doesn't work out, because there's a 50-50 chance that it could work out, and shifting that way of thinking instead, and just having peace with whatever's happening. You know what? This moment right now, this is where I need to be. This is right. This is perfect. My life shouldn't have been anywhere else but here right now. That is, I think that is what keeps me sane, and on track. Everything is perfect right now. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have been here, or I wouldn't be doing this. The choice that I made was the right choice, and it may not give me the results I want or initially thought it would give, but it's going to give something. It's going to give the lesson to prepare me for something later on in life, or whatever the case may be, So I think it's just finding, or having that mindset of finding the beauty in it all is what keeps me, So
Yeah. So that's the whole thing with mindfulness and meditation, is being in the present and appreciating, cherishing, savoring the moments, and really trying to like build those mindsets, those neural pathways. I had a really interesting conversation with Mickey Pistorius the other day. She's a forensic profiler. They made a series about it not too long ago called Catch Me Killer, but she also said that she used I like the example she used. She used the example of grass. Here in South Africa, we have grass, and so if you walk on grass, like tall grass, right, it starts making a pathway, and if you keep walking there, it sort of cuts through the grass.
Yes.
Right. So they were the pathways. So if you have a negative mindset, that's the path that you've cut. Right. And the positive mindset is overgrown with grass. So you need to start walking through the grass. Right. And keep purposefully going the harder route of walking through the grass. And eventually the grass over the negative route will grow. Yeah, it will close up. Yeah. And the positive route. And that's true. Neuroscience backs that as well. You have your neurons, your myelin sheaths, the way your brain fires, use it or lose it type thing. And so that's literally backed by science. That and so, but you mentioned this is exactly where you are now. And I'm happy, so happy for you that you're in the right place. But what about all of those people who don't feel like they're in the right place right now? Do you think a good mindset for them, for instance, would be to say, well, where rock bottom is a rock solid place to start from, and every single second and step that I take from now can be a step towards what I do want, what is perfect. But then balancing that with not getting anxious but I'm still in the wrong place, right? So it's a difficult. How do you? What advice would you give someone like that? And
that's very, very good question. You saying it all the time. I'm saying that also. I think like if we like you gave the example of the grass, right? And
or to credit where credit is due, that's Mickey.
Yeah. But I think it's where we are today is also choices that we made yesterday, right? And I think that the sooner you get that sense of mentality of I'm in the right place, eventually it's going to feel like you are in the right place, right? I could be going through the worst right now. Everything could be going down and it feels like it you don't want to be here, but also understanding sometimes that I need to be here. This hard time is actually beneficial for me in the future. I don't like it. It's very uncomfortable. No one likes it. No one wants to be there or in that uncomfortable position or like that, where things are just not working out. I think that is the hardest time where you need to stand strong with that mindset of, you know what? This is right for me right now. This is making me so strong right now. And you know what? I can use this hard time and I can motivate the next person.
Yeah.
Once the storm is, past.
I have a quote.
And yeah.
So on that, there's a quote that goes, pain is a teacher.
Yeah.
I don't have to like it. Don't have to love it. But I can respect it and I can learn from it.
100%. And I agree with that, and it's hard because like I remember growing up, I would say, because I had a fairly close relationship with my mother, right? And she always used to talk to me and guide me when I'm going off and things like that. And she would always say, I would say to her when something is wrong, she said, change your mindset. Say it is right. So I said, yeah, but mommy, this already happened. I can't change what already happened. It was already bad. The thing was already bad and I can't change it. Don't tell me change my mindset. It already happened. It's bad, and I couldn't wrap my head around that, but it already happened. Don't tell me about changing it. And she would always say, okay, it's fine. You keep thinking like that and see how far you get and go for it. I give you the freedom of choice. You can decide whether you're gonna take my advice. You're not gonna take my advice. And at the end of the day, if you're gonna keep having that mindset, it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And I experience things like this on a daily. Like even when I'm upset, maybe I remember not too long ago, it's about maybe 2-3 months ago, I was something happened at work. I'm not sure what exactly happened at work, and I was upset, and I knew because I know this. If I'm gonna keep being upset and I'm gonna keep having this frame of energy, things are going to get worse, because I know things never get better if I don't change it, because I'm so aware of it. And I'm driving and I hear the sound at the back of the car. And I'm very overcautious. And I'm just thinking, what is that? How much is that going to cost? And I'm already starting to stress about it, because I know it's a problem. It's not supposed to sound like that. It's a problem. It's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that, you know what, Dane, if you just snapped out of it before the time, this wouldn't have happened. Thank God that it didn't cost that much. But I just knew that if I'm going to keep, staying in this energy, if you can call it, things are going to just keep happening. And I think that is what makes it so hard when you are at that place, because you have that energy of things are bad, things are bad, things are bad. It's sometimes almost it feels like it's impossible to get out of that. And that's why you never get out of it. And that's why people's lives are just bad. And then it just gets worse all the time, because you have that mentality, you're stuck in it, and you just repeating itself all the time, and you pass that on with your kids and things like that. And the sooner you get it, the better it is for you. So it's going to be hard, but do it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, no one's going to get you out of it, and no one's going to save you. You need to save yourself. Get that and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And like mentality is that's a really difficult thing to change. Yeah, but it's such a powerful thing. And I know people that are like, so they're my mother's age, right? So like, sorry, Mom, old, right? They like 70s type. And the thing is, right, my mom doesn't look old. She is often, in fact, mistaken for a 40-year-old.
Oh, great. Oh, wow.
Right. So, but she has friends that are also 70, or close to 70, and they look, in fact, they don't look 70, they look 120. But they looked 120 60 years ago too.
Okay.
And I'm a very scientific person. I don't necessarily believe in like manifesting things and that type of thing. But at the same time, I've seen with my own eyes how people with the mentality of, life is so bad and my back is always hurting and tomorrow it'll hurt more. And I've literally seen, as a biologist, I've seen how they literally look older. Yeah. They literally act older. Yeah. They seem to feel more pain. It's like physiologically, the things you are saying, you seem to have predicted the future. Yeah. Maybe you are magic, right? Because at the same time, the same person who didn't do that, who had a positive mindset, stayed young, right? In a very sort of visible mindset type of way. But that mindset, like we know that there's a connection between your psychology and your physiology, right? Yeah. And a healthy body helps a healthy mind. So exercising helps you to form positive mindsets, for instance, and the other way around too. Like having a healthy mindset, psychology, helps your body. Yes. And yeah, so it's so crazy. And yeah, I do believe it's like you said with your car potentially breaking down and like getting stuck in these spirals and these mindset of it will be bad. It will be bad. And that's why I mentioned manifesting. Sometimes, sometimes it's only bad because you really made it bad. Yeah. Right. You basically spoke that into reality.
Yes. So I think whether you spoke it into reality or not, right? It's just a matter of how you see it.
Yeah.
I can say, okay, so I'll use the example of the car while I was driving back from work, right? If I didn't have that mindset of, if I was in the better space or energy space or whatever you want to call it, and I was positive and I heard that sound, right? Potentially I wouldn't have said, how much is this going to cost or whatever the case may be. Potentially I would have just drove home. I'd have looked at it And it was my tire. It was something on my tire, right? So not a major thing. And potentially I would have said, you know what? I actually need new tires. It's time. This is just a sign for me to get new tires. So I wouldn't have seen it in a negative way in the first place, if I just had that mindset. But because I was there, I said, I knew something's bad is going to happen because I'm in this energy and I need to snap out of it. The same thing could have happened, but because of the way I was thinking, I could have just seen it in a different light and said, you know what? I actually do need this. It's just a sign for me to get new tires.
Yeah.
And from there, I could have gotten excited car shopping for new tires, so yeah, I think maybe the thing could have still happened, but the way we approach it, the way we look at it would have been totally different. So
yeah, you use that word energy, and it's so I might digress now, but I always find it funny that I'm very much scientifically rooted. Like I think about, like, I need evidence to believe things and that type of thing. But the way I speak a lot of times is very metaphorical. It's very referencing literature and energies and these things that I don't mean literally. 41 minutes, so and we're back. There was another little technical difficulty, but you see, we have good mindsets, and we see the positive. And so I was just talking about how the ways I speak about these things, and I use them as an analogy. And you use the word energy now, and how you see something. And I think last time I mentioned that sometimes things the coach shouts at us at MMA, right? That's my brain, right? I hear things that are just literal words, and my brain goes, this is a deeper meaning.
Okay.
My ex used to get so upset with me sometimes when I watch a movie that really is just a movie, and they really didn't mean anything more. And I afterwards I sit there and I'm like, yeah, but actually, maybe the big city that Babe went to is actually it's happiness. But anyway, so one of the things that the MMA coach shouted was you also use the word energy, and how fear, right? Fear is good in MMA, right?
Okay.
What you do. Oh, it was advanced. You weren't there that day. I remember now. So he said, but the thing is, it depends on what you do with that fear, right? If you're not afraid, and in a fight.
Oh yes.
Yeah? Oh, you were there.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. And if you're not afraid in a fight, then you're maybe a little bit dumb. Right?
Yeah.
Like bravery and stupidity, there's a fine line, but if you can channel that fear and come in with the mindset of, this person that I'm fighting against, they can hurt me.
Yep.
I will not underestimate them, yes. Right? And so I will give my everything and channel that fear into commitment to giving my best to fight this person, and channeling that fear and I think that channeling of, and you gave the example of the car now, and how you can so easily turn something that's such an irritation to most people. The tires, I had to go fix it. I have to spend money. I have to take time. And be like, I get to buy cool new equipment for my car, right? And change it. Something that's an irritation. You can literally change anything into a power.
100%.
And bad times as well. But I'm going through a not so great time right now myself. But at the same time, I'm learning a lot, and I'm like processing and becoming a more empathetic person as well in the process. And so you can learn so much from channeling that energy.
Yes. No, 100%. I agree with what you're saying. And you mentioned you're going through like a lot right now, but it's also like we spoke about the way we look at it, and you're growing now, and you're learning so much now. and you're able to give so much. And even with our recording last week, you said, you know what, even if no one else is going to take something out of this, I took this out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like where you said no to the construction workers and that, you know? So we actually, you know, we're growing and it's doing something and it's something good and it's positive, you know? So even though it's small, we're grateful for it, you know? And I think that is the right, well, in my opinion, mindset to have to get through whatever, you know? And also touching on you know, the future or the process with everything. It's just consistently having that way of thinking, you know. We think differently. Like you said, you're very, like, I can't go as technical as you know, with science and things like that. Like you're speaking foreign language to me when you speak about those things, you know. But I mean, I can relate to certain things or the result or certain habits that you do or principles and things like that, you know. And yeah, there's also many ways to skin a cat, you know. So even though it's not the same, we can still get there. We can get the same result or whatever. And just going forward into whatever we do or we take on, that mindset is so important, you know. That physical, looking after yourself physically, you know, is so important. That self-love is so important, you know. I think that is part of self-love even. And yeah, it's yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I'll ask it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to, yeah. I was just gonna ask, like, about like, seeing that we're talking about like the future and the process and that, and your hard time right now, has it like shifted mindset? Was there major shift in the way you see things or look at things, or are you still the same person, or like what has changed, you know?
Yeah, so it's a nuanced answer, I think, because in this, on the one hand, it didn't change my the way I saw things, but it made my core values and beliefs and things that I know are important. It highlighted those. It made them stronger. It made me revisit and almost relearn things that I already knew, but maybe I'd forgotten at some stage, right? I said to you at a stage that boundaries, because last time we spoke a lot about boundaries and saying yes and no, and so and that boundaries are not walls, but that they are doors, right? And you get to choose who comes through those doors, right? And I think I'm learning that now as well, like revisiting things I knew, but I only knew in words.
Yes.
And now I know it in practice.
Yes, that is very, very true.
Yeah. And I like what you say about like, even if no one outside there in the world finds any use in these videos, right? The fact that we can, and I post like a couple of really short stuff on Instagram, right? And I was like, kind of just doing it for myself, right? Okay. But I was like, okay, this is a nice little life lesson that I've learned. I'm just going to put it out there. And I was overwhelmed by the positive feedback, not only in terms of support, which was it's also very nice to receive,
of course,
but also just with people liking it and saying things like, I found this useful. I like this. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that just makes me go, even if there's one other person, like out of the 9 billion people on this planet, there's one person on planet Earth that watched that little thing and heard the right thing at the right time. That makes it worth it for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that is also something that keeps you going, right? Because you it's not just for you. You're helping someone else, and that person, with what you said, is going to help the next 3, 4, 10 people. And those 10 people is going to help, 100 people. And it just gets passed on like that, So I think that is super cool. I haven't seen it. I'm going to check it out. You say it's on Instagram. I want to check it out. But I mean that, and it's it's such a brave step as well, because you don't know the feedback that you're going to get.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle for me, like especially with posting and things. You don't know what people's going to say, and you're scared of rejection or how I look or how I sound or whatever the case may be. But you took that brave step and you said, you know what, let's do this. I've learned something that this is meaningful to me. And people actually engaged with you on that and said, you know what, that's so true and that's so powerful. And you helped someone with just something that you learned, that I think that is amazing. And I think that is what life is about as well. Just passing it on, because we're not going to be here forever, or some believe that, I don't know, but I just think, we're not going to be here forever in this form. And to able to pass that down, I think that's amazing. Even after we're gone, that can be still going, that advice or that perspective, you saw things and so forth. I think that is just, that's life. That is beautiful. That is like the end goal, to me.
Wow, you said a lot of stuff that resonated with me now. So first I was speaking to my friend, my good one of my best friends, Jürgen, on the way here, and because he does like digital marketing, and I said to him, like, the effect that I had with this little short that I set out there. And I said to him, like, and I hope my other friends don't get irritated with the fact that I'm like posting a little thing now on the day. And he said to me, like, who cares if they get irritated, right? If they don't like it, right, then they don't have to watch it. But there are people who are finding it. Yeah, it's such a easy. And as soon as he said that, I was like, you're right. No, there's one person. And so you said something, and earlier you mentioned with when I go into the science and it gets super technical, but I'm going to go into the science and it's going to get super technical. But
listen, like, I understand it.
the like you said, we're not going to be here forever in this form, right? And something beautiful that I've found is, but we will always be here. Like, you and all of your atoms and molecules, you exist out of energy. Like, your principal component is energy. And when you're not here as Dane anymore, like, that energy goes back into the earth, into the cycles, and life continues. And if you trace back your ancestors, all life came from one little piece of energy very, very long ago, right? And the basic law of physics is energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Yeah, obviously.
That's the one thing I know. and it's true. And so in a way, maybe not in this form, right? But in a way, you do maintain, or you do continue to exist. And like, with some of my loved ones who have passed away, right? What kept me sane is the fact that, well, in a lot of ways, they live on in me, right? In my mannerisms that I've picked up from them, in my way that I see the world, in my memory, even. In every time, I forget the exact quote, but there's a quote somewhere that goes something down the lines of, people die 3 times. They'd have their physical death, right? Then they have when the last person speaks their name, type thing. And then they have when all of the like written and physical accounts of them, like photos and all of that, also, so in memory and in physical evidence, when that degrades. And so, but in the same time, and that's a very negative mindset in a way, because multiple deaths, but at the same time, multiple lives, right? The fact that you die 3 times means you live and you live in my memory, right? You live on the paper in that photo. There's a piece of you that really is forever. All right. And it's sometimes it can be melancholic. Sometimes I've gone, well, I really wish I had you and not the photo of you.
Of course.
But at the same time, I cherish like the times that we had together, and I cherish that I still have the photo and I still have the memory. And even though that life doesn't live in this and that form anymore, it did exist, right? And some part of it still exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, maybe something that person taught you, or with mannerism, it still lives within you, the physical being is not there. But I mean, you've got evidence, like you mentioned, the photos, and with whatever that person's influenced you with, you still have that, and your memory as well. It's the person is living in your mind, and I think I've never heard about that before, but that's very interesting. Hearing that for the first time. Thank you for teaching me. Yeah. But that's interesting. Actually, that's so true. And even going back to what I said earlier on, what we say now could potentially live longer than our physical being.
Yeah.
Even when we're gone, what we said or the influence we had is still there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was so, mind blown by that, because it can potentially live and keep going and keep going. And, that's amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah. So you write poetry, and I think people underestimate not underestimate, but I just maybe don't always take a second to realize that, the reason why these old works of poetry like Shakespeare and old books are, whether of any author, anyone that you like, whether it's Friedrich Nietzsche or like someone more recent, like that person hasn't been around for a very long time, but they've been immortalized. And even if we were to burn all of the books today, the mentality that even if we burnt all the books, they never had children and everyone who knew them in their life passed away. Things that they said, they reached someone somewhere, they repeated it. You can't trace it back to them necessarily, but it still lives on, right? And the power of music as well. I find, like Beethoven and all of these classical musicians, it's not even words, right? There are no words, and yet that emotional, raw part of them lives on in like classical music today, and it probably will.
Yeah.
And speaking about the future, I wonder sometimes with the music that comes out today, like, do you think like 50 years from now, like the kids are going to be like, the oldies but goldies, like Taylor Swift and the One Direction? It's like, do you think it's going to be like the classical music of the future?
Interesting. Look, I do think, like, I even find myself like with the music that we grew up with, right? If I say like maybe early 2000s, right? Kind of music compared to how it is like today. And I like rap music, right? And like a couple of years ago, there was mumble rapping, right? It's just and I was like, this is like, nonsense. I can understand why people listen to it. It's catchy and it's got the beat and whatever, even though they just mumble rapping. And I mean, like, listen to mumble rapping now and again, But I also took it back and said, you know what? Compared to what we used to listen to, this does make more sense. And now this is just a bunch of nonsense. Like, there's certain sounds they make, and screw, those kind of, but it's catchy. Yeah, it's catchy with your style, but it makes no sense. But it's doing the things, Yeah. And I think as time goes along, I do think that definitely will be the case, where we're gonna look back on it and say, that was real music, actually. Yeah. Now what you guys are listening to is terrible. You know, you old now if you say that, So yeah, what do you think about it?
I like that. I like the example as well. And I like the fact that, because we're passing along this mic, like we dropping you drop a beat. Honestly is my policy, my life philosophy. So What was I going to say now? So and I do think it's true. Obviously, like tastes change, and I think one thing that's been consistent is this belief that the music now sucks compared to the music then, and then a couple of years from now, the music now will suck to the music then again. And it's like at some point you got to stop and think, maybe, maybe the present is where it's at now in terms, but also respecting the past of where the music comes from. And, but, yeah, no, it's so funny to think that eventually we will be in that future where we look back on the rap of today and be like, that was real. And it does. It's still, at the end of the day, music still conveys some emotion, right? And it's still a reflection of a time. And I hear songs now from like the early 2000s when we were kids, and that I didn't like back then, but when I hear now, unlocks memories of that time, right? And it's also this gateway to the past. And it's like, I didn't like that song now, and if that song were to come out today, I probably also wouldn't like it. But the fact that this song is now reminding me of that time, different story, right? Now I like it. Now that nostalgia, the whole music industry, it seems to me, is kind of going the route of, it's kind of feeding on nostalgia at the moment. There's a lot of music coming out now that it's like you listen to it and you're like, this is a Beatles riff that they put in here, and this is like got a bit of a crackle, but on purpose. And like there's a very much a trend towards like and a lot of the pop stars, like if I think off the top of my head, Dua Lipa, Sabrina Carpenter, that type of music. Like there's a definite influence of like retro type things in there. Yeah.
Like I'm a Drake fan, right? And he's done that like a few times with his music, where he takes that old song and he just beats it up or whatever. He did something in one of the music videos as well, where I don't even know who the guy was, but he took a picture with a basketball, and he, just the way he was dressed and whatever, and he did the exact same thing in the music video, where he had the same clothes, he had the basketball, he had the cap and everything. So I do think or the artists are, going back and just like recreating, that what was, and just, I don't know. I don't know if it's something just to, I don't want to say maybe like to get the views or to, stay trending or why they do it. Or maybe it just meant something to them, that old song, and they just made it today, today, what he was trending today, whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I wonder, what do you think? Where do you think? Why do you think they do it though?
So yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything. The answer is nuanced, and there's a little bit of everything. And I think if there is definitely a part that's like we can make more money if we make something that's trending. But I think there's also a part of like, yeah, but they do find, or maybe, I don't know, it's each individual, but maybe they do find that's what they grew up with as well. Because, it's kind of scary. I realized the other day that we're not really that young anymore. Like, I remember the time where pop stars used to be older people, like, or people older than myself.
Oh.
And now it's a thing of like the majority of them are actually younger than us. So it's a kind of a weird thing that's happened. But a lot of them on that are actually kind of our age-ish. And so they also find nostalgia in the same stuff that we find nostalgia, right? They like it for the same reason we like it. It's like, and so I don't think like people often say that there's this corporate greed and that everything's bad and money hungry, and that exists. It definitely exists, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the full story. I think sometimes people also just like what they're doing. Sometimes people make that music because it'll make money, but because it'll also reach people, it'll also help people, and because that's what they want to do.
And I think going, like, just speaking about music now and going into the industry, if our artist, if our rapper, for an example, right, and for me to get my name out there I can't just be a good rapper. That's not what's going to get me out there. I need to understand, in order to maintain this, I need to understand business. I need to understand finance, or how to work with things. I need to understand the whole process of music making. I need to understand the whole legal side of it, or whatever, It's not just, I'm a good rapper, or I can freestyle, or I'm born with this gift, I'm going to become successful. There's so many other aspects of it as well that's going to make you that artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a lot in one. But you also, like, I heard on this podcast, Jay Shetty, I used to watch. What's his podcast name? Forgot. But anyway, Jay Shetty. He said something of, you really want to do this thing. You really want to start this podcast, right? You enjoy it, and you enjoy the conversation, and you enjoy what you're doing and what you're giving to the world. However, there's so many other things that you're not going to enjoy, like the editing, or the technical issues, or there's all these other extra things that you have to do, but don't like doing it, but because you like the idea of, this is what I'm giving to the world. I know I need to do this podcast. It's so heavy on my heart, but the editing is not heavy on my heart, but you have to do it, so yeah. Why did I say that? But but yeah, I think it's also just accepting that there's so much more than just that, or talent isn't enough. I've heard that saying as well. Talent isn't enough. And just a quick question on that: do you think, what are the challenges that you faced where you needed to do something and you really love what you're doing, but with that thing there was so much extra and you were just like, I don't want to do this anymore?
That's such a heavy question. So there's so much to unpack there. So firstly, I love rock music, and I attempt to make rock music. Sometimes like an indie type rock, but and it's exactly as you say, where, or being any artist really, I've met some musicians, especially here in the Cape Town area. Like I stumbled across people in bars and club, or like just like random restaurants and stuff in the Cape Town area, and that man is there on the saxophone or the guitar, playing something that three people together would struggle to produce, and he's just like casually there, sort of on a street corner playing this stuff, and I'm like, why is this guy not super famous? Like, yes. And then I walk a block down and I find another musician. I'm like, why is this guy not super famous? Like this Cape Town area, and I'm sure it's the same thing in the rest of the world as well. We find so many super talented people and artists and in all forms of arts, but they're not famous, and it's you need to do more than just be good at the thing, right? The one thing is never enough, regardless of what that one thing is, 100%. Right? And so, you need to be a digital marketer, and you need to be a financial person, and you need to do all of that. So a salesperson, you need to be a salesperson, right? You need to sell what you're making, and more than that, in a sort of deeper way, the love of what you're doing, and just love in general, is not enough either. That's something I've learned a lot recently, is like, love is not enough, right? Without security, without room for growth, without presence over proximity, like, love is not enough. Well,
it's really, it's really not enough. But it was so, like, I'm just thinking about, like, when I realized it, because that is the first time when I started the podcast, and I was like, nah, don't tell me this now. I thought everything I'm going to do is just going to be like, I love this, and everything's just going to run smoothly. But there's so many sides to it that's unpleasant, And I suppose that's why the support and the team is so important, because we could be enjoying talking on the podcast, but there's someone out there that actually enjoys editing more than what we do, and that's where that team cohesion comes in, and
Hit us up at www.
and send us a comment. So yeah, I think that is also important, and for me, I've always been someone that wants to do it on his own. I don't want to be working with anyone. I want because I have this idea and I want it to go accordingly. But it's so important to have that team or that partnership, to even in like romantic relationships. For me, it was hard because I wanted to do it, and this is how it's gonna go. And and to consider the next person as well, or they actually do well at this, they can manage this, and I can manage this because I enjoy this, and whatever. The same like with us. I like in the beginning, I was like, I don't like working. I've never worked with someone doing like something like this before, but I saw the positive. I said, you know what? If I'm going to feel lazy or I don't feel like doing it, you're going to say, listen, we need to do that. We need to stay committed or whatever. And then vice versa. Exactly, And then you got a sore leg. I can't, So, yeah, it's just that it helps actually. That support or that team, effort from whatever you end up doing. So I think that is also important, and also establishing each other's strengths. You better at this, so you do this, or whatever. You're more satisfied doing this, so this brings you more joy. Now this brings me more joy. And that's where it goes so well together, and you can create something out of nothing. So I think that is I'm just rubbling.
I agree, and it is like that. It's like I always look at accountants and I'm like, I have zero interest in what you're doing, but I love your passion. It's like I love that you like. For my job, I have to put up financial sheets and projections and stuff, and I'm like, I would love it if someone else does this. It's like I have to do sort of like a lot of sales type thing, get sponsors and stuff as well. I'm like, this is not science. This is not what I signed up for. but there's someone out there that's maybe sitting with the Excel spreadsheet in front of them, and they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I just use that sum function so well. So people love different things. People have different strengths, and I'm like you as well. I'm a very individual person. I like doing things my own, and when I was younger, if they were like group projects, I was often that person that would either tell people what to do or like do it myself, and like that's not the right way to do it. That's not like. I mean, fair enough. Sometimes you get, especially in university, you get some lazy people, and so sometimes I would like know my lazy but clever people, and we like, okay, we're gonna team up. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be cool. You can chill. I know you want to, so and so it is that thing of finding each other's strengths and finding that balance between being an individual who can do your own thing, and also knowing you can do stuff with other people, and you can create something together. Right. So, speaking of creating stuff together, and on the previous topic of the music and the future. Right. So with AI, now, what direction do you think the future is gonna go, and like art, specifically art, right, with AI? And what do you think it will go? Which direction do you think it will go? And which direction do you think it should go?
It's a good question. I saw something the other day, right? I don't know, you can't believe everything that you see online. But I saw this thing where they asked, I don't know, I can't even remember the question they asked this robot thing or AI. And the thing responded by saying, I'm not going to be able to say it as well as AI said it, but basically what it was saying is, it was saying it was always there, right? However, we just aligned ourselves with it now, and now we can see it, right? The same like, yeah, the same like electricity was always there. Right. It was a time where we didn't see it, but we got to a point where we actually see it. We can, like, I don't know what the right words to use, but I hear you. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. So that was like,
That's provoking.
Yeah. So yeah.
Let me get back to you now, but there's a thought experiment, right? And it has different names, but one of the famous versions of it's called the basilisk experiment, right? And so how this thing works is, at some point in the future, there'll be an AI thing, right? An overlord, an evil creature.
Okay.
Right? And it'll be like super powerful. It can time travel. It can come back and shoot you dead right now. Right? And it knows, it can see into the past. And so now that you know about it, right? Today, you need to start dedicating the rest of your life to building it. Because if you don't do that, it's going to come back and punish you. Right? And so this thought experiment of the AI always existing, and it kind of ties a little bit into the energy thing that we said earlier, with like, in a way, because everything is made from the same stuff, right? The potential for everything that will ever exist in the future is already all around us, right? It's, in a way, it exists. Exactly. The blocks are here. We just need to put the Lego together.
Yes.
But let me get back to you, Saista.
Yeah, no, that is just one of the things that I saw. But and I don't know if you watched the movie, what is it called, Chixie? So it's about this guy and his phone, right? The phone's name is Chixie. And because we do everything with our phones, everything's on our phones. I mean, our phones tracks where we go, knows where we work, it has our banking details on it, what we like, algorithm with social media, it has everything.
It's a part of you.
Yeah, definitely. And anyway, the movie was about this guy with his phone, and the phone falls in love with him. Yeah. And then the phone like gets jealous because he finds someone and he's not giving the phone attention anymore, and she destroys his whole life. His the ATM, his money, she just, gets rid of his money or whatever. Anyway, like, I feel like it's scary thinking about it, where it could go, because it's almost like it has a mind of its own.
It feels like it.
Yeah, that's how it feels. It feels like it's smarter than us, than most of us.
It literally has more knowledge.
Yeah. And I'm just, to me, it's scary because we don't know everything. And potentially, AI knows more than what we know and could control us or could direct us in a certain way without us even realizing. So, yeah, I'm just, there's this mixed emotions with it, but I mean, it's super helpful. We use it every day. It makes life easier and more convenient. But I mean, when I think about the future, it is a bit scary. I'm looking at the bots. I'm thinking how relationships is going to be in the future. Are we going to even care for human connection, or human, you're looking for a girlfriend or whatever, you're just going to take a bot that you just say what to do and whatever, So it's scary, but it's scary because it almost feels like we don't have control over it in a way, But that's my opinion. Let's. I know you're gonna give a better answer.
No, I'm not gonna give a better answer. So the thing is, so all of those are valid concerns, right? And I saw, speaking of movies, I saw a trailer just today about a movie with one of the Skarsgård brothers, also about an AI that like gains consciousness and starts like directing and stuff. And there are other movies as well. Like there's a series called Psychopaths or Pass, and it's essentially also about, not about, but in the world there's a, call it an AI system. You find there's a little bit of a spoiler there, but let's call it an AI system that sort of governs the society and analyzes who will be criminals in the future and that type of thing. And there's also what's that movie? An older movie with it's like the balls, these little balls that pop out, and then also it's like predicts an AI that predicts when crime will happen and stuff. So the future of AI and predicting stuff, the future of AI, and then the future of AI predicting the rest of the future is a very interesting place.
Yeah.
And if you look at, and it can be scary, and if you talk about the bots, right, and like, will that dampen the connection that we have with people if instead we can have it with this bot that has literally the world's knowledge. But so you mentioned the phone, right? And we kind of live attached to our phones. It's like, if I take your phone away, I'm taking away, like you said, these days I'm taking away your credit card, I'm taking away your contact communication to the world. We're in a sort of symbiosis. Do you know what symbiosis is?
You can explain it.
So the symbiosis is in biology when organisms not only live together but need each other really to function optimally, right? So, and that kind of ties into what we said about working together is if I'm a little cell that I take sunlight and I make energy, right? And you're a big old thing that takes energy and makes food, right? Then the cell gets food and you get energy, and we all happy together. That's a symbiosis.
Yes. Okay.
Right? And in a way we're in symbiosis with our cell phones already. And my prediction is, I think we're going to be in sort of a type of symbiosis with AI, and we're already kind of with like Alexa and stuff. And it won't become a thing of us and them. First of all, I don't think AI doesn't have a limbic system, the part of the brain that regulates emotion and that type of thing, right? It can simulate it, but it doesn't have greed or a want to take over the world. It has nothing to gain from taking over the world, right? Well, I mean, okay, you can make it, you can tell it to do that, and eventually it'll be strong enough that a person can tell it to do that. But I don't think it needs to be a concern. And on the emotional connection part of it, I was surprised at how well AI actually maintains emotional information, or contains emotional information. So I was because in my undergrad I majored in genetics and psychology, right? So I have a little bit of a psychology background as well, and I was like just asking it advice, like as if it's a therapist type thing, and not only what it was saying, but the way it was saying it was exactly how a therapist would say it and what a therapist would say. So it's very interesting to see that something that doesn't have a person behind it does very much have that personal touch effect. And I think emotional intelligence is also something that can be learned.
Yep.
Right?
Definitely.
And at the end of the day, all that AI is doing, it's learning, right? Learning and emulating. And I think we need to hold the mirror up to ourselves and realize that's what we're doing. We're learning and emulating as well. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of AI, right? And we see a lot of bad AI. We see a lot of lazy artists and money grabs and that type of thing. And I hope that doesn't become the norm. I hope that sort of spark of ingenuity, and I hope that personal connection and all of that stuff persists. And I think it will as well, right? If I look at the past, because speaking about the future, I think often when we make predictions about the future, we look into the past. And there was a time in the past where when there was a time in the past where when people started reading more, the parents were like, these books are distracting the kids from working the land. And then like the radio came along and they're like, this radio, this new thing, the kids aren't reading any, and then television, and the kids aren't, and it's like, it's always the next thing. And that's, and the people aren't listening to the teachers anymore. It's like,
yes.
But all of those things are still around, and sometimes in different forms, right? So radio, not around in its conventional form, but we listen to podcasts, we listen to Spotify, and that type of thing. And that's for all intents and purposes, right? For the purpose that it serves, that's radio. It's still around. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
And I think AI is it's not going to undo everything that came before it. It's not going to be the new. It is currently seen as the new evil, but it's just the next thing.
It's just the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I think, yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. I think we all should be, because, it is the next thing, and we need to run with time as well, and it's going to make life easier for us and, more enjoyable for us as well. So I think, it's just a lot to take in, and we don't know where it's going. We just don't know, and that's I think that's the scary part, I just wanted to ask the question about like the podcast, right? The future. I think we can end off with this topic. But like, where do you think this is going, or where do you think it should go, or what are we trying to get out of this? What are you trying to get out of this? Seeing this is our new project. Let's talk about that a bit.
So I think that's a great question. And I think basically my answer would be a summary of everything that we spoke about now, in that it's almost not useful to predict, but to be prepared. It's almost not useful to think about or to be anxious about the future, but focus on the now, right? And so what I mean by all of that is, right now, you and I would love to do this podcast. Right now, we're enjoying it. Right now, apparently there are people who like listening to it, and we find some stuff out of it. And what I see for the future of this podcast is that we will continue to do one once a month, and then if the liking grows, the demand grows, then we'll grow with it, right? But it's, if you were to ask me, what do I see the podcast 10 years from now? I don't know. How must I predict that? Right? I don't even know what the world is going to look like 10 years from now. But what I can predict is next time, right? I can't predict long from now, but I know next time what I see is we're going to do this podcast again. We're going to maybe improve one small thing. It can be ever so slightly better than this hopefully. And that I can predict and control, right? And so then, in order to get to the future, I'm just going to take the right steps now to get there. Yeah. What do you think?
I love that answer. I agree with you. It's just about taking that next step. And you said something that is so funny. You said we're gonna do the next one next month. That's what we said last week. We will. So the agreement was we were gonna do one once a month, eh? And then we just did. So 2 weeks ago we discussed it. A week later we did our first episode, and a week after that we're doing our it's less than a week actually. We did it Saturday, 6 days later. So but I mean,
watch him on like Wednesday or something.
We'll see. So I mean, it's we you're right. We can't predict what's going to happen in the next 10 years. But I think it's one step at a time. One episode at a time, and we learn as we go along. I think that's the beauty of it all. There's certain things that we're going to pick up now. Again, that was a mistake that we tried to improve from the first episode, and we're going to improve it even better on the third episode. So it's just that continuously growing, and also putting out there what we know for the next person. I think that is what's exciting for me about this, you know, and that's what it is, and we'll go with it step by step. I always said I would love a studio in my house. Nice podcast studio would be cool. But I mean, yeah, a room is a studio. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it's that sense of consistency, that commitment, you know, that accountability. Like I said earlier on, if I don't feel like it, because there's going to be a point where I don't feel like doing it, you're gonna say we need to do this. Yeah, we committed to this and whatever, and we're gonna end up doing it, you know, and vice versa. So we have to take it one step at a time and grow with time. And hopefully we can, in the next couple of years, we'll see how it goes. We can look back in this and say, wow, look at us and look where we are now. You know, that is going to be exciting. Yeah. So yeah, any last words before we end up?
My last words are simply take one step at a time, and you'll get to the future that you want. Yeah.
No, 100%. That's perfect. I think let's end it off there. Yeah, that's drop mic. Yeah, you're supposed to do it there. Boom.